You walk into an NBA arena today, and there's this invisible barrier between you and the players. Security everywhere, alcohol sales stop after the third quarter. When your team loses a close game, the league drops a detailed report within hours explaining every call in the final 2 minutes. What if we told you that 20 years ago, none of this existed? You could walk right up to the players, buy drinks until the final buzzer. Referees never had to explain a single call to anyone. Hard to believe, right? But why and when did this all happen? The answers lie in scandals so shocking that they forced the NBA to change forever. Here's the thing. The NBA we watch today was built on the ashes of some truly wild scandals. Little did they know what was about to happen would cost millions, destroy careers, and shake the very foundation of professional basketball. Today, we're going to dive deep into 3 such scandals that left long-lasting impacts and changed the league forever. Let's break them down. It was a regular Friday night in November, and the Pacers were playing the Pistons in Detroit. The game didn't seem like anything special. The Pacers were up by a lot, and with only 45 seconds left when a routine foul came. It felt like a routine blowout game until suddenly it wasn't. Ron Artest, who later changed his name to Meta World Peace, hit Ben Wallace on a layup attempt, something that happens all the time in the NBA. But Wallace didn't take it lightly. He shoved Artest hard, and that shove sparked a scuffle between both teams. At that point, things could have settled down, but instead of getting in Wallace's face, Artest stepped away. He walked over and bizarrely laid down on the scorer's table, maybe trying to cool off or avoid making the situation worse. The crowd's on edge. Then, boom, a flying cup of Diet Coke breaks the peace. Artest snaps. He lunges into the stands at the fan who threw it, and Stephen Jackson is right behind him. Suddenly, it's players versus fans in an all-out melee. Fans were swinging back. One even ran onto the court and got punched by David Harrison, another Pacers player. The whole thing played out live on national television, unedited, in-your-face chaos that millions of viewers couldn't believe they were seeing. By the end of the night, Auburn Hills looked like a war zone. 9 players had been ejected. 5 fans were led out in handcuffs. The fan who threw the cup ended up getting 30 days in jail. And another one who threw a chair, yes, an actual folding chair, got hurled for 6 months. It was insane. But here's the craziest part. That single night cost NBA players a combined $11 million in salary due to suspensions. Now, to put that in perspective, a Big Mac cost $2.58 in 2005. Today, it's $5.69, more than doubled. That $11 million hit is equivalent to about $22 million today. Ron Artest alone forfeited about $5 million, and nearly his entire season. Stephen Jackson lost nearly $2 million. They were the heart-crushing blows to players' livelihoods. Imagine being a Pacers fan that night. 1 minute you're celebrating a win, the next you fear for your safety. You ask how one fight can change that entire league? Easy. Reputation hit was so significant that the NBA had to act fast and decisive. Within 6 months, they installed 70 new security measures, basically a top-to-bottom overhaul of arena safety. No more alcohol sales after the third quarter, a rule that cost arenas $2.3 million a year in lost beer sales. But for families nervous about bringing kids to games, it was a welcome sacrifice for peace of mind. They also expanded the space between fans and players from 3 feet to 8 feet at a minimum, and hired over 300 new security staff across all 30 arenas. Players were also required to wear business casual when traveling or speaking to the media. It is because surveys show that 68% of fans said the brawl made them less likely to bring their kids to a game. The league basically said, "We have to win our fans' trust back, or we're done." And in the end, those changes worked. The season before the incident, there were 47 reported altercations between fans and players. The season after, not a single one. Do you think Artest was justified in going after the fan, or did he take it too far? If a brawl in the stands forced the NBA to overhaul its security and reshape its public image, then just 3 years later, the league took another hit, one even bigger than a fight. In 2007, you've yelled at your TV over bad calls, argued charging versus blocking with your friends, maybe even called a ref blind or used some stronger language. But you never really thought the NBA was rigged, until suddenly everybody did. Out of nowhere, the FBI comes knocking at David Stern's office. It came on the headline that Tim Donaghy, a 13-year veteran NBA referee, wasn't just betting on games he officiated, he was fixing them. A man paid to be neutral was secretly tilting the scales from inside the system. You want the background? Here it is. Tim Donaghy officiated 772 NBA games over 13 seasons, including the years leading up to the scandal between 2003 and 2007. Later, he admitted to manipulating the outcomes of up to 40 games. And get this, his betting ring made over $1.4 million in profit from those games. Remember what we said about how much money that was in the mid-2000s? It hit different back then. And here's the wildest part. When Donaghy bet on games he refereed, he won 78% of the time. But when he bet on games he didn't referee, just average, about 50%. Statisticians said the odds of that kind of gap happening by chance, about 1 in 10,000. In other words, it was no accident. When everything got clarified, Donaghy pleaded guilty, as he was expected to. He was sentenced to 15 months in federal prison and fined $30,000. Stern rushed to do damage control, branding Donaghy a rogue, isolated criminal, but fans had lost faith. The sacred trust between fans, players, and the game was shattered. If you couldn't trust the refs, what could you trust? The NBA threw everything at the problem, including the kitchen sink. They bought in a retired Army general to clean up referee operations. Now, every ref gets an FBI background check every year, at a cost of $2.3 million annually. It's a hefty price tag, but the league was happy to pay to prevent the next Donaghy. They started logging every call. In fact, there's a team of 14 statisticians watching games in real time, grading refs across 47 different metrics every night. And those last 2-minute reports we all debate after close games, that transparency push started because of the Donaghy scandal. The NBA had to win back our trust. But you know what the real cost was? Fans voted with their feet and their remotes. TV ratings plunged 12% the next season. Attendance dipped over 3%. And while the NBA never published an exact number, reports estimate it lost tens of millions in revenue. Some sources say $67 million. But the damage to trust? That's priceless. But Donaghy's biggest damage? He planted a seed of doubt, one that never really went away. Ever since when a ref blows a call in crunch time, you can't help but wonder, was that just a mistake, or is something else going on? That little voice is still there for a lot of fans, even now. And sure, gambling is a growing issue across all sports, but the Donaghy scandal forced the NBA to act fast. Today's oversight systems, from 2-minute reports to referee grading, all trace back to this crisis. It changed how the league protects the game's integrity. Tell us honestly, did you start watching refs a little closer after this came out? So far, we've seen 2 scandals that rocked the game from the inside. A brawl with fans that forced the NBA to clean up its image, a rogue ref that forced it to rebuild trust. But what came next wasn't about basketball at all. It came from the boardroom, and it forced the NBA to ask itself what values it really stands for. Now let's talk about 2014, the year the NBA had to prove its values at the very top. This scandal comes from a very different angle and changed the league more than in one way. In April of that year, an audio recording went public, one in which LA Clippers owner Donald Sterling, in conversation with his girlfriend, made overtly racist remarks.
On Instagram so the world has to see it, so they have to call me. And don't bring them into my games, okay?
He told her not to bring black people to games. Imagine, it was 2014, not 1914. The recording exploded online, racking up millions of plays within hours. It was front-page news everywhere. Fans, players, even the president responded with outrage. It was not only an NBA scandal, it was a national scandal, beyond basketball. Sterling had owned the team for 33 years. In that time, they mostly stunk, and everyone knew Sterling was a bad owner. But NBA owners were like an old boys club, seemingly untouchable no matter what they did. Until this. Adam Silver had been commissioner for just 88 days when the recording surfaced. In his first real test, Silver came down like a hammer. He banned Sterling for life from all NBA activity, slapped him with the maximum $2.5 million fine, and vowed to force Sterling to sell the team. The financial blowback was swift. CarMax yanked their $2 million deal within 6 hours of the tape leaking. By that time, State Farm dropped their $3 million sponsorship. Within 24 hours, Virgin America, Red Bull, Kia, all gone. The Clippers lost an estimated $27 million in annual sponsorships literally overnight. Players threatened to boycott playoff games, a move that could have cost the league $18 million per game in lost TV revenue. Adam Silver's swift and decisive action didn't just calm the storm, it saved the playoffs. With Sterling banned, his wife struck a deal to sell the Clippers to Steve Ballmer, the Microsoft billionaire, for $2 billion. At the time, no one had ever paid anywhere near that for an NBA team. The record was around $550 million. For the Clippers, a team long considered a laughingstock, it was shocking. But context matters. This was the Lob City era. The team was rising fast, and they were must-see TV. And guess what? That outrageous price tag looks like a bargain now. Under Ballmer's ownership, the Clippers' value skyrocketed to $4.65 billion. Ballmer poured $1.8 billion in player salaries, $2 billion on a shiny new arena, $340 million on training facilities. Big contrast to Sterling, who was infamous for being cheap. He spent a grand total of just $47 million on facilities in 33 years. The Clippers went from the league's neglected stepchild to a franchise with one of the NBA's richest owners, ready to spend whatever it takes to win. Increased ownership scrutiny and the rise of a new wave of high-value owners was just part of the aftermath. In the heat of this scandal, the NBA had to show the world and its fans what it truly stood for. Because today, basketball is more than just a game. The NBA is a global culture and one of the cornerstones of modern sports. It was a major test for newly appointed Commissioner Adam Silver, but in the end, the scandal proved something important. When it matters most, the NBA can act fast, stand firm, and change for the better. And honestly, if you ask us, these scandals might have been the best thing that ever happened to basketball. Yes, quite shocking for the players, but they forced the NBA to become something better than what it was. The first scandal made the NBA safer for not just players, but for families. The betting scandal forced transparency, and Sterling's removal proved that being NBA team owner doesn't make you untouchable. The league chose to evolve instead of just hoping problems would go away. Which of these moments do you remember most? Were these scandals the league's lowest point? Or the catalyst that created the NBA we love today? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more NBA breakdowns, new videos every week on Basket Grinders.